We lost both of these bodybuilders and great human beings way too early. I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body, and that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Dave Palumbo here with an RXMuscle news update. You know I hate doing these, and I've done way too many of these over the last several years, but we lost two, not one, but two amazing people from our bodybuilding community over the last couple of days. The first one was Hayley McNeff. A lot of you out there seem to have really liked her and knew her. And I think she really the first time I ever saw her was when I saw the video Raising the Bar, which was Dave Pulcinella's, our good friend Dave Pulcinella, and his brother Mike's little pet project they did. There was a few of them. I think there's a 3 of Raising the Bar 1, 2, and I think there's a 3. And I think they're going to do an updated one too. But the video series was tremendous, and that really brought to light, Mike's talent as a videographer and Dave's personality on camera, which I really loved. I thought they did a great job with that series. But Hayley was in there. Dave at the time had been dating her. I think she was like 19, or she was really young at that point. And many years later, I met her, and she was doing some stuff with RXMuscle and hanging out with our whole community. And I had time, I spent a bunch of time with her and became friends with her. And she was super smart. She had, a college degree. She was a really good bodybuilder. She was up and coming. I don't quite know why she stopped bodybuilding, but I know she went on to do some other stuff. And I kind of lost touch with her after she kind of dropped off the bodybuilding map. But super nice individual, great soul, very genuine. And like I said, I spent days with her and a whole RXMuscle crew, going out to dinners and, doing bros versus pros, strength challenges in the gym. And it was, we had a really good time. She was on TV shows. I probably should try to pull some clips from that, but I don't know if I'm going to have time. I think this is more important to get this up in a timely manner, because I really want to send out my condolences to her family, friends, any fans that she had out there. I know a lot of people reached out to me and said, Dave, we really want you to do a video tribute to her, because she does have a lot of fans, and there are a lot of people that cared about her, and they want to hear me talk about her. And I think it's sometimes we put up a post on RXMuscle's Instagram and my Instagram, but sometimes that's just not enough. And you want to really talk about the individual. Like I said, I wasn't like super close friends, but she did spend actually almost a week at my house. She stayed at my house while all the RXMuscle people were at my house. Actually, Aaron Singerman, who was working with me at the time, he was there. I forget who else. I think John Romano was there, or John was staying around the corner. That's when he was living in New York. And we were all hanging out for a week straight. I don't remember what the occasion was, over what holiday it was, but we all had a really good time, and we would go out and, eat. And I think we went to a couple after parties. We had a really good time. And once again, she was a super, super genuine person. And I don't know, like I said, what went wrong. And there's really been no cause of death released. There have been some rumors, and I don't want to speculate at all, because it's disrespectful to her family, especially because I don't even know if they're doing an autopsy or not. I would assume they would at some point. And if the family decides to release whatever the results of that are, then that's on them. But for now, I'd like to just send my condolences out to the family, and say that you have our prayers here from RXMuscle and myself. The other person I was a lot closer to, and that's Craig Licker. I don't know if you guys know Craig Licker. For you young people out there, you probably don't know who he is, but I remember my friend Bob Bonham, who owns Strong and Shapely Gym in New Jersey, said to me, I was training at his gym. This is when I was first coming up and just starting to, get some notoriety. And I was going to go see the 1994 NPC Nationals. I had just placed third at the Junior USA. People kind of were asking questions, who is this guy, at this point. So I was kind of getting a little bit of notoriety. And I remember Bob telling me, he's like, Dave, you going out to Nationals? I said, yes, it's going to be the first Nationals I'm going to go see. It's in Orlando. I'm all excited, because Paul DeMeo was doing it. This was going to be his comeback. He was going to win the Nationals, which he wound up eventually doing. And Bob said, Craig Licker is looking really good. I said, who's Craig Licker? He goes, and he showed me a picture of him. He said he's from the Boston area, and I think he's going to win the middleweight class. Now, at that time, the middleweights were super, super competitive. Vinny Galante was competing as a middleweight back then, and he was one of the favorites, and there was a whole bunch of other guys that were favorites as well in that middleweight class. I think Jose Figueroa was in that middleweight class as well. And Licker came out of nowhere, and he won that class. I remember seeing him. I was at the show. I didn't know him. About a year or two later, him and I got introduced, and he got his pro card at that show, if you win your class at Nationals. So he won. Willie Stahl, Derek Whitsitt won the light heavyweight class. He had beaten me at the Junior USA earlier that year, dropped down to light heavy, he won there. And then Paul DeMeo won the heavyweight class. There was no super heavy at that point in time. And then Paul won the overall. So it was a really good, weight class winners. They all turned pro. And somehow Craig got in touch with me through, I think it was through my friend Anthony DeRezzo in Rhode Island. And he said, Dave, I want to work with you. I heard you, you really know what you're doing. And I guess at that point I had gotten really big. I was about 300 pounds at this point. And so a lot of people were reaching out to me. Remember, there was no internet. He drove all the way from Boston to my house on Long Island, I remember, and we met up and we just hit it off. Sometimes you're just friends with people. 1 second, Chris Aceto was like that. John Romano was like that. Craig Licker was like that. Just same mindset. If you told Craig, to drink pee, he would say, how much you want me to drink? Eat dirt, how many grams of it? That he was like that kind of a guy. And I started doing his diet, and he would literally drive to my house like 4.5 hours each way, like once a month, so I could look at him getting ready for shows and stuff like that. And remember, back then there was no 212 class. So he went from winning middleweight, 176 pounds at Nationals. Now he had to compete with the big boys, essentially the pros who were over, in the 200s. And it was very hard for him. And if there had been a 212 class, I think he would have done really well because he had a really good structure, and he got super ripped because you could make this guy suffer. He did not care. He loved it. And then I started making a little bit of money in the industry. He started making a little bit of money, and I bought a BMW, and then he saw my car, and then he wanted one. And so he got an M3, and I had a BMW M5, which is the 4-door. And then we started there was a tuning place on Long Island that would do upgrades, like Dine-In and all the different aftermarket places. And he would drive out, and we would go there, and we would get stuff done to our car. We would talk, BMWs. And so we had a lot of interest in common. And it was really kind of cool. He would come out and stay for the weekend and then drive back. He would bring friends with him. I met a lot of guys through him that he would just bring to my house. My friend Steve Reeves, I'm pretty sure I met through him, and a couple other guys that he brought over the years to my house. And we were really tight for a long time. And then Craig kind of went on and did his own thing. He was actually he had his own tuning shop. He was so into cars, he had his own tuning shop for a while. And then he came back to me and said, I want to get back into bodybuilding. And he started working as a sales guy for me for Species Nutrition. And he was covering the whole New England area. And he was doing really well. If Craig put his mind to something, he can do anything. He was a great salesman, and he was a likable guy. If you talked to him, you almost wanted to give him your business. And I always appreciated his loyalty, his friendship, and he always defended me. He always said Dave's the smartest guy I know, and he's my friend, and I always respected that about him. And I always defended him. If anyone ever tried to say anything bad, I always said, you don't know Craig like I know him. He was a good guy. And once again, I don't know what happened. We're trying to find out what went wrong. I know he had a little bit of some heart issues earlier, but I don't think that was anything that was worrisome as far as I knew. And I just don't know what could have caused his death. And hopefully they do an autopsy and we find out. Once again, I send my prayers out to his family and his friends. Like I said, he was a well-liked guy in the Boston, New England area, and he's going to be missed. It's interesting that both Hayley and Craig kind of came from the same area. and they died a couple days apart. It's an absolute shame. Hayley was only 37 years old. Craig was I think Craig was 57 because he was born the same year I was, 1968. So we lost both of these bodybuilders and great human beings way too early. And once again, my prayers go out and my love goes out to their families. From everyone here at RX Muscle, I'm Dave Palumbo with a very unfortunate RX Muscle update.